Look, every single one of us started somewhere. Maybe you were the nervous wreck white-knuckling a 250 in an empty parking lot at 6 in the morning, hoping nobody was watching. Maybe you were the idiot who thought a 600 was a perfectly reasonable first bike. I'm not here to judge. Actually, that's a complete lie. I'm absolutely here to judge because the beginner riding world is a beautiful, chaotic, deeply hilarious ecosystem of human beings, making every possible mistake in real time. And today we're going to catalog every single one of them. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Carl, and this channel is basically what happens when a guy with a motorcycle problem gets access to a camera. We talk bikes, we talk gear, we talk riding, and occasionally I say something that gets me in trouble in the comments, which honestly at this point I consider a win. Before we jump in, quick reminder that we've got a Discord server with over 3,000 members, riders, soon-to-be riders, and a surprisingly large number of people who just like motorcycles but haven't pulled the trigger yet, which, by the way, pull the trigger, life is short, link is below. Every dollar you spend over at carlnewmerch.com is also an entry into our current bike giveaway. And if you need gear or tires, head over to winemoto.co, same deal. Every dollar spent is an entry to win. Okay, housekeeping over. Let's talk about the beautiful disaster that is the beginner rider. Number 1, the gear fiend. Now listen, gear is important. I will die on this hill, and ironically, without good gear, I might actually die on a hill, so this is not me telling you to skip the protective equipment. Absolutely wear your gear. All the gear, all the time. We've heard it, we know it, it's true. But then there's this guy. This guy has spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,000 on riding equipment and has not yet purchased a motorcycle. He's got the Shy helmet in the colorway that his favorite MotoGP rider wore in 2019. He's got the Alpine Stars leather jacket with the CE Level 2 armor already installed because he did 3 weeks of research on armor ratings and will not stop bringing it up at dinner parties. He's got the gloves, he's got the boots, not just any boots, the ones with the ankle protection and the toe box reinforcement, and the sole that's specifically designed for both walking and riding, which he read about in a forum post at 2 in the morning when he should have been sleeping. He has a high-vis vest for night riding. He does not ride at night. He does not ride at all yet. He does not own a motorcycle. Here's the thing, though, and I genuinely mean this. I would rather have 10 gear fiends than 1 squid, which we'll get to in a minute, so hold on to that thought. The gear fiend's heart is in exactly the right place. He's taken the safety side of this seriously, maybe a little too seriously, maybe in the wrong order, but the enthusiasm is real and the foundation is solid. Once he actually gets a bike, which statistically speaking is going to happen about 3 weeks after he buys a matching set of luggage for a touring trip he has not planned yet, he's going to be better prepared than most. We love you, gear fiend. Please buy a motorcycle. Number 2, the YouTube warrior. Closely related to the gear fiend, but a slightly different subspecies. The YouTube warrior has consumed more motorcycle content than any human being should reasonably be allowed to consume before ever swinging a leg over a bike. This person can explain the difference between a slipper clutch and a standard clutch. They can tell you the power-to-weight ratio of a Kawasaki Ninja 400 versus a Honda CBR 500R. They have opinions, strong ones, about the Triumph Trident's mid-range torque delivery, and they have never once felt a friction zone in their life. The YouTube warrior shows up to their first MSF course and immediately starts correcting the instructor. Not because they're a bad person, they're usually a perfectly lovely human being, but because they watch so many hours of riding instruction content online that they genuinely believe watching Keith Code break down throttle application in a 50-minute video is equivalent to actually practicing throttle application on a real motorcycle. It is not. I cannot stress this enough. It is absolutely not. Here's what nobody tells you about motorcycling until you're already on a bike. Your brain and your hands are 2 completely separate governments that do not talk to each other. You can understand countersteering on an intellectual level so deeply that you could write a dissertation on it, and then get on a motorcycle for the first time, and completely forget that your hands are attached to your body. The YouTube warrior finds this out the hard way in the parking lot, usually while going about 4 miles per hour. The good news is that the knowledge base is genuinely there. Once the muscle memory starts to catch up with everything rattling around in their head, the YouTube warrior often becomes a genuinely competent rider faster than most. They just need to get out of their own head first, which for some of them takes a while. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Number 3, the I'll just start on a leader bike guy. Okay, deep breath. We need to talk about this one because this is not just a personality type, this is a genuine public safety situation, and I feel a responsibility to address it with the seriousness it deserves before I absolutely roast this person for the next 400 words. Every single year, without fail, a fresh batch of new riders shows up absolutely convinced that starting on a beginner bike is beneath them. They've driven cars for 10 years, they say. They're athletic, they say. They're a fast learner, they say. They want a bike that they won't outgrow, they say. And then they walk into a dealership and point at the leader bike on the showroom floor, and the salesperson, bless their financially motivated little heart, does not talk them out of it. Let me explain what a leader bike is doing when you open the throttle, and I'm going to use small words because I want this to land properly. A modern leader class sport bike is making somewhere in the neighborhood of 180 to 200 horsepower. Your Corolla makes 139 and weighs just under 3,000 pounds. Well, the leader bike makes nearly 50 more horsepower than that and weighs around 400 pounds. That power to weight ratio is not something a new rider has any framework to manage, because riding a motorcycle is not like anything else you have ever done. The throttle response, the braking dynamics, the way weight transfers under acceleration, none of it translates from a car. None of it. Zero. You are starting from scratch on two wheels regardless of how long you've been driving. The classic outcome here is one of two things. Either the new rider gets on the leader bike, gets scared of it immediately because it responds to the tiniest throttle input like an angry animal, and parks it in the garage for 6 months before selling it. Or, and this is the one that keeps riding instructors up at night, they don't get scared of it. They like it. They start riding it before they have any of the foundational skills to actually manage what's happening underneath them, and then something goes wrong on a Tuesday afternoon on an on-ramp that they could have handled just fine on a 400, but they absolutely cannot handle on a 1000cc machine making nearly 200 horsepower. Start on a beginner bike. Please. Your ego will survive, I promise. Number 4. The squid. Ah yes, the squid. The official mascot of the comments section of every motorcycle accident compilation on the internet. If there's a trophy for most likely to end up in a YouTube compilation with 5 million views and a title that contains the word instant, it goes to this guy every single time, no contest. If you're not familiar with the term, a squid is a rider who has made the very deliberate decision to prioritize looking cool and going fast over every other consideration, including their own continued physical existence on this planet. You can spot one from approximately half a mile away, which is helpful because that gives you enough time to move to a different lane. The identification process is simple. Start with the gear, or more accurately, the catastrophic absence of it. Flip-flops, basketball shorts, a t-shirt that says something ironic on it, which will be deeply ironic in a different way if things go sideways at 60 miles per hour on a Tuesday. Maybe a half helmet, the kind that protects roughly the top third of a human skull perched on their head like a little novelty bowl. If they're having a particularly safety-conscious day, they might have gloves. Fashion gloves. The kind with no knuckle protection. Points for effort, I suppose. Then there's the riding style, which can be summarized as full throttle first and questions never. Following distance is a concept they've heard of and rejected. Lane position is wherever the bike happens to be at any given moment. Brake lights from the car in front of them are more of a suggestion than actionable information. And the bike. Oh, the bike. Usually something with significantly more power than any reasonable person would hand to someone with their experience level covered in aftermarket stickers and already missing a peg from a previous encounter with gravity that they will describe to you as, "Some car cut me off," if you ask about it. Now here's the thing I want to be fair about. The squid is not exclusively a beginner phenomenon. There are veteran squids out there, people who have ridden for years and made a fully conscious lifestyle choice to never wear gear and always ride like they're being chased by something. That's a choice adults can make, even if it's a deeply questionable one. But the beginner squid is a different and more concerning situation entirely, because they have every ounce of the bravado and exactly none of the skills to back it up. They watched some wheelie compilations, decided that was the life they wanted, bought a 600 without an endorsement or a single lesson, and are now fully committed to a trajectory that the statistics find very predictable. I genuinely don't have a joke for that part because it's just not funny. The Hurt Report, one of the most exhaustive studies ever done on motorcycle accidents, found that proper gear massively reduces the risk of injury and death. That's not somebody's opinion on a forum. That's data. Wear your gear, all of it, every single time you ride, please. Number 5, the MSF dropout. Let me be very clear about something before I say anything else. The MSF course is one of the best things you can do as a new rider. Go take it. Right now, go look up when the next one is in your area and sign up. I'll wait. Okay, good. Now let me tell you about the person who took the MSF course, got their endorsement, and left approximately 98% of what they learned in the parking lot where the course was held. The MSF dropout passed the test, technically. They did the cone exercises with enough competence to get signed off. But they treated the whole thing like a driver's ed class, something you do to get the piece of paper, not something you actually internalize and carry with you. They couldn't tell you what the friction zone is 3 days after completing the course. They've already forgotten the 2-second following distance rule. The part about looking through the turn and where your eyes go has completely evaporated from their memory, replaced by whatever podcast they were listening to on the way home. The thing about the MSF course is that 2 days is not enough time to make any of this automatic. The whole point of the skills they teach you is that eventually they need to become reflex, not thought. And 2 days in a parking lot gets you started on that journey. It does not complete it. The MSF dropout thinks it completes it. They ride out of that parking lot with their shiny new endorsement and the unearned confidence of someone who just finished a video game tutorial and thinks they're ready for the final boss. Spoiler, the tutorial does not prepare you for the final boss. Go practice. Go back to the empty parking lot on your own time. Do the exercises again. Do them until you stop thinking about doing them and just do them. Number 6, the tipover king. Every single beginner rider drops their bike. I want to say that clearly and without judgment, because it is simply true, and pretending otherwise is doing new riders a disservice. Dropping your bike is a rite of passage. It happens in parking lots, at stop signs, at intersections, sometimes in your own driveway while your neighbor watches from across the street, which is fine, it's fine, nobody's looking, and even if they are looking, it doesn't matter, it's fine. The tipover king, however, is operating on a completely different level. The tipover king has dropped their bike so many times in the first 3 months of ownership that the bike now has what can only be described as a personality built from crash damage. The mirror is zip-tied at a slightly wrong angle. There's bar end damage on both sides, which if you know anything about crash physics means they've gone down in both directions, which is actually kind of impressive in a very specific way. The tank has a scratch on it that they've explained to approximately 40 people with a story that gets slightly more dramatic each time. But here's what I want to say to the tipover king, and I mean this sincerely. You are learning. The dropped bike is evidence of someone who is actually out there riding, actually putting in the hours, actually experiencing the full and unedited version of learning a new physical skill as an adult, which is humbling and hard and worth every single zip-tied mirror. The riders who never drop their bikes in the first year are usually the riders who aren't riding enough. Get out there, drop the bike a couple more times, and maybe invest in some frame sliders. Number 7, the brand loyalist. The brand loyalist walked into their bike ownership journey with the destination already decided before they ever took a single lesson, did a single hour of research, or sat on a single motorcycle. The decision was made somewhere around age 7 when their dad pulled up on a big twin V-twin cruiser, and it imprinted on them like a baby duck imprinting on whatever it first sees when it opens its eyes. That imprint said Harley-Davidson, and nothing in the known universe is going to dislodge it. Now I want to be careful here because I am not in the business of telling anyone their taste in motorcycles is wrong. Harley-Davidson makes excellent motorcycles. BMWs are outstanding. Ducatis are gorgeous and theatrical, and occasionally on fire in interesting ways. Brand loyalty in motorcycling is one of the things that gives this culture its texture and its passion and its identity. The problem is specifically the brand loyalty that exists before the rider has any idea what they actually want or need from a motorcycle. The beginner brand loyalist buys a Heritage Softail Classic as their first bike because that's what their dad rode. The Heritage Softail Classic weighs around 700 pounds, which is a completely manageable motorcycle for someone with experience and 0% of the right choice for someone who has never operated a two-wheeled vehicle in their life. They spend the first 4 months being terrified of low-speed maneuvers, which makes complete sense because low-speed maneuvers on a 700-pound motorcycle require a set of skills that takes time to develop, and they haven't had that time yet. Then they see someone on a Kawasaki Z400 dancing through traffic like it weighs nothing, which it basically does at around 364 pounds, and a small light bulb goes on. Sometimes the right first bike and the dream bike are two different bikes, and that's okay. Number 8, the Invisible Upgrader. The Invisible Upgrader has owned their beginner bike for exactly 11 days and is already on the forum asking what they should upgrade to next. This person bought the Ninja 400, which by the way is genuinely one of the best beginner bikes ever made, and I will hear no arguments about this, and they are already bored of it. They have ridden it to work twice and to a gas station once. They have not yet explored anything close to the limits of what the bike can do, and they are posting asking whether they should go straight to the ZH2 or maybe a used S1000RR. What does everybody think? What everybody thinks, and what nobody on the forum is going to say nicely enough, is that you have been riding for 11 days and you are nowhere near the ceiling of your current motorcycle. The Ninja 400 makes 45 horsepower, which in the hands of someone who actually knows how to ride is an absolute weapon of a motorcycle. You know who proved that? Every single club racer who races a production 400 and goes faster than people on 600s who don't know what they're doing. The beginner bike is not the limitation. The beginner is the limitation, and the only upgrade that fixes that is seat time. The Invisible Upgrader also tends to underestimate how good their current situation actually is. Low insurance, low stakes if they drop it, which statistically they will. Fuel economy that makes actual financial sense. A power band they can actually explore safely. The beginner bike is a gift. Ride it until you're embarrassing it. Then talk to me about upgrading. Number 9, the one who actually gets it. And then, every once in a while, like a solar eclipse or a perfectly executed heel-toe downshift, you encounter a beginner rider who just gets it. They took the MSF course and actually paid attention. They bought a sensible first bike, not because someone pressured them into it, but because they did the research and understood why it made sense. They wear all their gear every single time they ride, not because they're scared, but because they've looked at the data and made a rational adult decision about risk management. They go to empty parking lots on their days off and practice slow-speed maneuvers and figure eights and emergency stops. They ride as if they're invisible. They leave more following distance than a car driver would. They know they don't know everything yet, and that knowledge is their single greatest asset. This person is going to be an incredible rider, not because they're the most talented or the most naturally gifted, but because they have the one thing that no amount of horsepower or expensive gear can substitute for, which is the right attitude. They understand that riding is a skill you develop over a lifetime, not something you unlock after passing a weekend course and buying a cool helmet. They're not in a hurry to get to the next bike or the next skill level or the next whatever. They're here on this bike, on this road, paying attention. And man, it is a genuine pleasure to watch someone ride like that. We are all rooting for this person. We were all, at some point, trying to be this person with varying degrees of success. And honestly, no matter which of the previous 8 types you recognized yourself in when you were reading this list, and look, I saw myself in at least 3 of them when I was starting out, and I'm not going to tell you which ones, the goal is always to grow into this 9th type. That's the whole journey. Everything else is just the interesting part. And that, my friends, is the beautiful disaster of the beginner rider ecosystem. 9 types, all of them real, most of them dangerous in at least one direction, and every single one of them necessary because this community needs new riders. We need the gear fiends and the YouTube warriors to eventually become the person who gets it. We need the tip-over kings to keep dropping their bikes and getting back on. We need the squids to, well, actually, please just wear a helmet. That's really all I'm asking. If you're a beginner rider watching this, I hope you saw yourself in here somewhere, and I hope it made you laugh, because this stuff is genuinely funny. when it's not genuinely terrifying. And if you're a seasoned rider watching this, I want you to go out of your way this week to be patient with a new rider, because we were all one of these people once. Some of us still are. If you like this video, smash the like button. It actually helps more than you think. Subscribe if you haven't. Drop a comment and tell me which type of beginner rider you were, or if I missed one, because I definitely missed some. Head over to carlnewmerch.com to enter the bike giveaway and support the channel at the same time. And as always, keep the rubber side down out there. Fact, the average human being will spend 6 months of their life waiting at red lights. Motorcyclists in states with lane filtering laws spend considerably less time doing that, which is one of approximately 10,000 reasons why you should already be riding. Goodbye.